Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when a single revelation does not just inform you, it repositions you. There are teachings that do not simply inspire you. They ignite a fire your environment can no longer contain. Today is one of those moments. We admire billionaires for their power, their influence, and their accomplishments. But what they show the world is only the surface. Because behind every skyscraper, every empire, every billion-dollar vision, there exists a set of rules they follow that they will never publicly teach. Not because they are selfish, not because they are hiding something sinister, but because these rules lose their power when spoken lightly and gain their strength only when understood by the prepared. Tonight, you will become one of the prepared. Rule of silent accumulation. There is a sacred mystery in silence, a power that only reveals itself to the disciplined soul. When billionaires rise, they do not rise with noise. They rise with inner conviction, the kind that does not need applause or approval. Noise is for those who want attention. Silence is for those who want transformation. Silence is the inner chamber where dreams are conceived, shaped, refined, and strengthened. It is in silence that the spirit gains clarity. It is in silence that vision crystallizes. It is in silence that a man learns to hear the whisper of direction that others miss because their lives are filled with distraction. Every great builder understands this. When you announce too early, you attract the doubts of the small-minded. When you expose your steps too soon, you invite the fear of the unprepared. When you speak before your roots are deep, you endanger the harvest you have not yet grown. Silent accumulation is not secrecy. It is spiritual incubation. It is the refusal to let premature exposure suffocate a destiny still in formation. Those who rise to abundance understand that the world does not reward noise. The world rewards manifestation. The tree does not announce the growth of its roots. Yet without those unseen roots, the branches cannot survive the storm. In the same way, your progress must first grow underground, within the unseen places of discipline, persistence, and resilience. Silence becomes a shield. Silence becomes a sanctuary. Silence becomes a strategy. It protects you from envy. It guards you from premature judgment. It keeps your strength from leaking out to those who cannot understand it. When you grow in silence, you eliminate the need to defend your journey. When you act in silence, you avoid the traps of comparison. When you build in silence, you rise so high that by the time people finally notice, you are already untouchable. Billionaires do not silence themselves out of fear. They silence themselves out of wisdom. They know that destiny must mature quietly before it can shine loudly. They know that the spirit cannot expand in a crowded room. They know that noise is the enemy of mastery. So walk quietly, work quietly, prepare quietly, build quietly. Because when your season comes, the silence will break and the world will not merely hear your voice. It will witness your manifestation. Rule of strategic sacrifice. Every elevation demands a sacrifice. Nothing powerful is born without something precious being surrendered. Billionaires understand that greatness is not acquired through preference. It is acquired through exchange. You give up what is temporary to receive what is eternal. You release what is comfortable to embrace what is transformational. There are sacrifices that feel painful, but they are not losses. They are investments. There are sacrifices that feel heavy, but they are not burdens. They are bridges. The world teaches people to chase comfort. But comfort is the cradle where potential dies. Growth does not bloom in convenience. It blooms in challenge. Wealth does not emerge from leisure. It emerges from discipline, fire, and persistent pursuit. Strategic sacrifice requires vision. You must be able to see beyond the moment. Those who cannot see the future cling to the present. Those who cannot imagine abundance cling to the familiar. But those who feel the pull of destiny surrender willingly, because they know that what they sow today becomes the strength they stand on tomorrow. You sacrifice your excuses. You sacrifice your distractions. You sacrifice friendships that hold you in old versions of yourself. You sacrifice habits that soothe your weakness instead of building your greatness. Strategic sacrifice is not simply letting go. It is choosing what must stay and what must die so that your destiny can fully live. Billionaires sacrifice leisure for learning. They sacrifice comfort for commitment. They sacrifice immediate gratification for long-term multiplication. Every time they release something small, something greater is prepared to enter. Every time they walk away from something shallow, something deeper rises within them. Sacrifice is not suffering. Sacrifice is alignment. It is the way the spirit cleans the path ahead. It is the way destiny tests seriousness. It is the way wealth evaluates worthiness. Nothing valuable comes without pruning. Nothing powerful comes without cost. Nothing divine comes without discipline. Your future will not ask what you wanted. It will ask what you were willing to give. Rule of unbreakable focus. There is a realm of achievement that can only be entered through absolute concentration. Billionaires understand that the greatest threat to destiny is not failure, not poverty, and not competition. It is distraction. Focus is not merely paying attention to something. Focus is the art of eliminating everything that does not belong to your calling. A focused mind becomes a spiritual weapon. A wandering mind becomes a spiritual weakness. When a person cannot control their attention, their destiny becomes negotiable. But when their focus becomes anchored, immovable, unshakable, their life becomes unstoppable. Unbreakable focus is not a natural talent. It is a cultivated discipline. It is forged in moments of solitude. It is strengthened through consistent purpose. It is tested by temptations that try to pull you away from your path. Focus demands that you say no 1,000 times to protect a single yes. That defines your future. Billionaires do not chase opportunities. They select them. They do not run after trends. They build vision. They do not allow people to pull them in every direction. They move in alignment with a higher assignment. Because they know this truth, scattered energy produces scattered results. Divided attention produces divided outcomes. A fragmented mind produces a fragmented life. But when a person commits to one direction with spiritual intensity, the universe itself rearranges to support them. Doors open. Ideas flow. Strength multiplies. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. Focus sharpens intuition. Focus deepens discipline. Focus removes anxiety because clarity destroys confusion. Unbreakable focus means you protect your mental space like treasure. You do not allow negativity to enter. You do not allow small minds to influence you. You do not allow temporary emotions to sabotage permanent goals. A focused individual is dangerous, not to people, but to limitation. Limitation fears the person who knows exactly where they are going. Distraction fears the person who refuses to be divided. Circumstances fear the person whose mind is fully committed. When your focus becomes unbreakable, your destiny becomes undeniable. Focus is the fire that turns potential into manifestation. Focus is the lens that turns dreams into results. Focus is the barrier that protects greatness from delusion. A billionaire's life is built not on multitasking, but on single task mastery. Not on trying everything, but on refining one thing. Not on pleasing many people, but on obeying one vision. The vision placed inside them. The world belongs to the focused. The future belongs to the disciplined. The throne belongs to those who refuse to look away from their assignment. Rule of relationships, not crowds. Billionaires do not gather crowds, they gather alliances. Crowds applaud you. Alliances elevate you. Crowds consume what you produce. Alliances multiply what you build. The world chases attention. The wise chase alignment. There is a divine principle. Your destiny is shaped more by who walks with you than by what you know. A crowd's energy is shallow. It rises fast and dies fast. They celebrate your success, but do not contribute to it. They enjoy your results, but do not strengthen your journey. Billionaires understand this, so they do not waste energy trying to be liked by many. They focus on connecting deeply with a select few who carry vision, integrity, wisdom, and spiritual weight. Relationships are ladders. Some lift you. Some lower you. Some keep you in the same place. To elevate, you must choose wisely. Billionaires invest in relationships that sharpen them. They seek conversations that stretch their mind. They align with people who provoke growth, not comfort. They do not fear being alone because they understand that loneliness often precedes alignment. The right relationships require the pruning of the wrong ones. You cannot carry everyone into your next level. Some are connected to your history, but not your prophecy. The right relationship can open doors that skill alone cannot. The right relationship can accelerate success that effort alone cannot. The right relationship can reveal opportunities that knowledge alone cannot. Relationships are spiritual technology. When used correctly, they multiply your destiny. When misused, they delay it. Crowds see who you are. Alliances see who you can become. Crowds take from you. Alliances invest in you. Crowds follow your light. Alliances help you protect it. Choose alignment over applause. Connection over popularity. Purposeful alliances over purposeless crowds. Because your destiny does not depend on how many people know you. It depends on who walks beside you. Rule of long-term thinking. Long-term thinking is the foundation of empires. Billionaires live in a dimension beyond the present moment. They do not measure life in days or months. They measure in decade cycles and legacies. While others chase quick rewards, they plant seeds that will feed generations. Short-term minds panic in difficulty. Long-term minds see strategy in difficulty. Short-term minds fear failure. Long-term minds use failure as raw material. Short-term minds give up when progress is slow. Long-term minds understand that slow progress builds permanent foundations. Vision expands when the mind stretches beyond immediate circumstances. You cannot birth something great while thinking small. You cannot build something lasting while thinking temporary. You cannot rise if your decisions are driven by impatience. Long-term thinking requires spiritual maturity. You must trust what you cannot yet see. You must endure what you do not yet understand. You must believe in what has not yet manifested. But the reward is prophetic. Those who think long-term eventually dominate those who think short-term. They dominate in wealth. They dominate in influence. They dominate in stability. They dominate in clarity. Because long-term thinkers build from a higher plane. A billionaire's question is never, what will this give me today? But, what will this become tomorrow? They invest in skills that compound. They build systems that outlive them. They create structures that function even when they rest. Long-term thinking transforms your patience into profit. It turns endurance into elevation. It transforms consistency into compound growth. Your destiny expands when your timeline expands. Your wealth expands when your vision expands. Your influence expands when your horizon expands. Think beyond the moment, because the moment passes, but legacy remains. Rule of extreme self-responsibility. Responsibility is the birthplace of power. Billionaires rise because they refuse to adopt a victim mentality. They do not depend on circumstances to decide their future. They depend on their decisions. They do not wait for things to change. They become the change. When you take responsibility for everything in your life, your results increase. Your clarity sharpens, your inner strength multiplies. Responsibility means you stop blaming people. Responsibility means you stop blaming situations. Responsibility means you stop blaming the past. You cannot control what happened, but you can control what you become because of it. Extremely responsible individuals understand that progress begins the moment excuses end. Excuses are the chains of the weak. Responsibility is the weapon of the strong. When you stop defending your limitations, your destiny begins to open. Self-responsibility is spiritual maturity. It is the acceptance that your future is not in the hands of your environment, but in the hands of your discipline. It is understanding that life does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your actions. Billionaires wake up each day knowing they are accountable for their future. They do not wait for motivation. They create momentum. They do not depend on luck. They depend on mastery. They do not depend on circumstance. They depend on consistency. They take responsibility for their habits, emotions, finances, relationships, and mindset. They understand that whatever they do not manage will eventually manage them. When you embrace extreme self-responsibility, you step into a realm of empowerment few ever enter. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop hoping for change and start creating transformation. Responsibility turns your life into a prophecy fulfilled because you no longer leave your destiny to chance. Rule of inner reinvention: before any empire is built, a builder must be reborn. Long before wealth arrives externally, it must first be created internally. Billionaires understand a truth that the majority never recognize. Your life can only rise to the level of the person you have become. No wealth is sustainable when held by a personality that has not evolved. No abundance can remain in the hands of an identity still shaped by scarcity. Inner reinvention is the spiritual law of elevation. It is the moment you stop negotiating with your old patterns, your old fears, your old emotional reactions, and your old mindset. It is stepping into a higher version of yourself, a version built not from circumstance, but from conviction. Every person carries two versions of themselves: the current self, shaped by experiences, habits, fears, and history; the potential self, shaped by vision, faith, identity, and calling. Most people live and die trapped in the first version. Billionaires only rise because they consciously and courageously choose the second. Inner reinvention means you examine the stories you have believed about yourself and rewrite them. It means you confront the emotional wounds that sabotage your discipline and heal them. It means you challenge the limits you inherited from your environment and break them. It means you step into a mindset your past did not prepare you for, but your future demands. Transformation does not begin with action. It begins with identity. When a person becomes someone new on the inside, their decisions naturally follow. Their habits shift. Their energy shifts. Their relationships shift. Their standards shift. Their entire world rearranges to match who they are becoming. Inner reinvention is not a seasonal event. It is a lifelong commitment. You grow, then you outgrow. You learn, then you unlearn. You rise, then you rise again. Billionaires outgrow older versions of themselves the way a tree sheds old bark. Not with force, but with certainty. Not with guilt, but with evolution. They do not cling to identities that no longer serve them. They do not protect habits that suffocate their next level. They do not defend attitudes that keep them trapped in familiar limitations. Inner reinvention requires humility. You must admit that your current self is not yet capable of carrying your future. You must surrender the parts of you that are incompatible with destiny. You must accept that growth often feels like breaking. The caterpillar does not fear the loss of its form. It trusts the promise of its wings. So must you. This rule is sacred because the universe responds to identity more than intention. You may desire wealth, but if your identity is rooted in fear, wealth will avoid you. You may desire influence, but if your identity is rooted in insecurity, influence will overwhelm you. You may desire elevation, but if your identity is rooted in self-doubt, elevation will collapse under you. Inner reinvention is the process of becoming worthy, not in value, but in capacity. You do not earn wealth with effort, you earn it with identity. You do not attract abundance with force, you attract it with alignment. When you change your inner world, the outer world must obey. When you reinvent your mindset, your reality must adjust. When you elevate your identity, your destiny must match your elevation. True change does not start when you receive something different. True change starts when you become someone different. Rule of calculated isolation: there is a divine season in every destiny where separation becomes necessary. Billionaires understand the power of calculated isolation, intentional withdrawal, purposeful solitude, chosen distance. Not to run away from the world, but to hear what the world would never allow them to hear. Isolation, when embraced intentionally, becomes the sacred workshop of destiny. It is the place where the noise of the external world fades, and the voice of inner vision rises. It is where clarity sharpens. It is where direction becomes undeniable. It is where ideas descend from realms of intuition into realms of strategy. Most people fear isolation because they equate it with abandonment. But billionaires understand that isolation is not rejection. It is preparation. In isolation, you confront the parts of yourself that distraction normally hides. Your desires become purified. Your motives become corrected. Your spirit becomes strengthened. Your vision becomes clarified. Isolation removes the influence of small thinkers. It silences the opinions that weaken your conviction. It cuts off the emotional noise that dilutes your focus. It allows your internal compass to recalibrate without interference. Some seasons demand that you step back so that you can step forward with greater force. Some seasons require that you become invisible so you can re-emerge invincible. Greatness cannot be birthed in crowded spaces. Revelation cannot descend in noisy environments. Breakthrough cannot manifest in chaotic surroundings. Isolation becomes the holy ground where transformation takes place. Billionaires isolate themselves to refine their blueprint, to analyze their behavior, to realign with their long-term vision, to rebuild their inner power. They know that if they stay continually surrounded by opinion, noise, and expectation, they will never hear their own soul. And a man who cannot hear his soul cannot birth his destiny. Calculated isolation is not escape, it is elevation. It is the deliberate separation from anything that clouds your direction. It is pulling away to return stronger. It is stepping back only to leap further. In isolation, you renew your mental power. You detox spiritually. You reorganize your thoughts. You strengthen your emotional foundation. Everything great requires a season of hiding. The seed hides before it grows. The root hides before it strengthens. The vision hides before it manifests. Isolation protects the early stages of greatness from premature exposure. When you emerge from isolation, you emerge with a sharper edge. Your confidence becomes deeper. Your purpose becomes clearer. Your energy becomes elevated. You become a person who cannot be distracted. You become someone who cannot be manipulated. You become someone who has heard the whisper of destiny and refuses to compromise it. Isolation is where billionaires create the next version of themselves. It is where they receive the revelations that shape their empires. It is where they prepare for the battles their future requires. Not all isolation is loss. Sometimes isolation is your greatest upgrade. Rule of ruthless prioritization. Billionaires do not rise because they do more. They rise because they do what matters most, relentlessly, consistently, and without apology. This is the rule of ruthless prioritization. The discipline of elevating the essential and eliminating the irrelevant. Most people live in reaction. They respond to every demand. They chase every task. They entertain every distraction. They spread themselves thin across 1,000 activities that yield no growth. But billionaires understand a sacred principle. Not everything deserves your time. Not everything earns your energy. Not everything belongs in your destiny. Ruthless prioritization means you evaluate every activity through the lens of purpose. Does it multiply your vision? Does it move your life upward? Does it increase your capacity, your wealth, your influence? Does it align with your long-term blueprint? If not, it is removed. This level of clarity is not cold, it is necessary. Greatness requires selective focus. Destiny requires disciplined choices. Success requires intentional energy management. Time is not the real currency of billionaires. Attention is. They do not waste it. They do not scatter it. They do not surrender it to trivial pursuits. They cut out distractions with spiritual firmness, not because they lack compassion, but because they understand the cost of misused energy. A divided life cannot produce unified results. A scattered mind cannot birth coherent destiny. An overloaded calendar cannot carry divine assignment. Ruthless prioritization is the art of saying no without guilt. No to obligations that drain. No to relationships that distract. No to opportunities that do not align with long-term vision. No to emotional impulses that sabotage progress. No to entertainment that steals mental sharpness. No to habits that dilute spiritual strength. Every no becomes a wall that protects your purpose. Every yes becomes a seed that multiplies your future. While others are busy, billionaires are intentional. While others are overwhelmed, billionaires are organized. While others are reacting, billionaires are advancing. They prioritize learning over leisure. They prioritize creation over consumption. They prioritize mastery over mediocrity. They prioritize long-term gain over short-term pleasure. This does not make them robotic. It makes them purpose-driven. Ruthless prioritization also means they dedicate energy to the few actions that create massive impact. The 20% that produces 80% of the results. The critical tasks that require courage. The strategic moves that require vision. The high-value decisions that change the trajectory of entire decades. Most people avoid these tasks because they are uncomfortable. Billionaires prioritize them because they are transformational. When you practice ruthless prioritization, your productivity elevates, your clarity deepens, your spirit strengthens, your focus sharpens, your progress accelerates. You stop living by default and start living by design. You stop following the urgent and start following the important. You stop chasing results and start creating systems. Prioritization is not only about time, it is about identity. What you prioritize reveals who you are becoming. What you eliminate reveals what you refuse to remain. When you honor your priorities, you honor your destiny. Elevation requires inner integrity before outer visibility. Elevation is not an event, it is a transformation. And transformation is never born on a public stage, it is cultivated in hidden places. Before life exposes you to the world, it demands that your inner integrity be strong enough to carry the weight of the elevation you pray for. Many people desire the spotlight, applause, and recognition, but they do not realize that visibility without inner solidity becomes a burden, not a blessing. Every significant elevation in life begins with an internal preparation process. Life first asks, can you handle responsibility? Can you maintain discipline in silence? Can you carry wisdom without pride? Can you stay humble when no one applauds you? Before the doors open, you must become the version of yourself that can walk through them. Integrity is the foundation of elevation. It is the invisible strength that supports visible success. Without integrity, elevation becomes a downfall. Without character, success becomes fragile. And without inner stability, any outer blessing becomes temporary. That is why life hides you before it reveals you. Not to punish you, but to protect your future. In hidden seasons, your vision becomes purified. Your motives become corrected. Your habits become refined. Your discipline deepens. Your mindset strengthens. You learn to withstand pressure without breaking, temptation without falling, criticism without collapsing, and loneliness without losing direction. These silent tests are not there to break you. They are training you for the elevation you cannot yet see. When you build integrity in private, you will walk with confidence in public. When you build discipline in silence, you will lead with authority in visibility. When you conquer yourself in solitude, you will conquer your assignments with excellence. The world sees your elevation, but it will never see the countless battles you conquered in silence to qualify for it. So do not rush exposure. Do not demand visibility before accountability. Do not chase applause before maturity. Let life prepare you. Let discipline shape you. Let silence strengthen you. Your elevation is coming, but it will not come before your character is ready to carry it. Premature exposure can destroy what preparation could have strengthened. There is nothing more dangerous than being seen too early. When a seed is pulled out of the soil before its time, it dies. When a fruit is plucked before maturity, it loses sweetness. When a building is occupied before completion, it collapses. In the same way, premature exposure destroys destinies that are not yet fully formed. Many people believe their problem is lack of opportunity, but the real problem is often lack of readiness. They desire to be seen, but their foundation is not yet stable. They want the attention, but their emotional structure is not yet matured. They want influence, but their spiritual, mental, and financial disciplines are still weak. Exposure magnifies everything, including your flaws. What was small in private becomes huge in public. What was manageable in silence becomes unmanageable under pressure. When you are exposed too early, critics see what discipline could have corrected. Competitors attack what maturity could have protected. Temptations overwhelm what accountability could have strengthened. Pressure destroys what preparation could have fortified. That is why life covers you, not to reject you, but to preserve you. Premature exposure can bring you opportunities your character cannot sustain. It can surround you with people your intuition cannot yet discern. It can elevate you to levels your emotional maturity cannot manage. And it can place you in circles your wisdom cannot navigate. Exposure without preparation is a trap, a silent sabotage packaged as success. But when you embrace the preparation season, you build the strength, wisdom, discernment, and resilience necessary to handle visibility. You gain the maturity to manage relationships, the self-control to manage temptations, the clarity to make decisions, and the discipline to sustain long-term success. You learn not just how to rise, but how to remain. If you rush exposure, you will collapse. If you embrace preparation, you will rise and remain. Elevation is not about getting to the top. It is about having the strength to stay there. And that strength is built far away from the public eye. Your elevation has a divine timing. Reveal nothing until the time is right. Every elevation has a schedule. Every breakthrough has an appointed moment. Every blessing arrives when the version of you that can sustain it has finally emerged. Timing is not a delay. Timing is a shield. Timing is protection. Timing is divine synchronization. The aligning of who you are with where you are destined to go. When you reveal your elevation too early, you invite resistance, envy, spiritual interference, unnecessary competition, and premature battles. Not every ear deserves to hear your dreams. Not every environment can protect your progress. Not every person can celebrate your victory. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Others are assigned to limit you. And some are waiting for your elevation just so they can sabotage it. Silence becomes your strategy. Timing becomes your shield. Restraint becomes your wisdom. When you protect your elevation in its early stages, you allow it to grow without interruption. Just as a pilot keeps communication limited during takeoff, because it is the most delicate and dangerous phase, your dreams, goals, and next level need silence until they gain altitude. Once you're stable, once you're strong, once you're elevated enough, then you can be visible. Because no one can pull down what has risen beyond their reach. Life knows when your heart is ready for the next level. Life knows when your mindset is resilient enough, when your discipline is deep enough, and when your habits are strong enough. Rushing the process will not speed up the blessing, it will only weaken the foundation. But trusting the timing will position you for elevation that endures. When the time is right, no force can stop your rise. No environment can limit your growth. No opposition can deny your breakthrough. And no person can interrupt your destiny. But until that time comes, stay silent. Keep building, keep preparing, keep growing. Your elevation is on schedule, and nothing can delay what was designed for your future.